Again, Facebook users, I cannot see your names right now. They're popping up. Your comments are popping up, but I just can't see your name. So excuse me. Don't think I'm like trying to be weird. Like it just says Facebook user, so I just don't know what the who you are. But so the question was, what is the price of the apprenticeship program? And apprentices are $3.11 per month. So if you would like to be a part of that, feel free. I'd love to have you. There's just a lot of extra perks that come with it to really support your authorship as far as growing it. If you feel like you're kind of already established, or if you are a brand new author and you feel like you just want to kind of hit the ground running, it might be a great way to do that. So if you go to writerworksuniversity.com/subscribe, or even just go to writerworksuniversity.com, there's plenty of links and things on there to become an apprentice. So that's easy, and you just do that whenever you're ready. All right, so moving right along. So I keep forgetting to move this logo. I'm sorry. Here's the general overview of what we're going to talk about. So first, I want to walk you through the technical steps, because remember what I was saying, where some people just don't know, what to do. They just don't know what steps 1, 2, and 3 are. So I'm literally going to walk you through that right now, so that you have that information and you see how it really is very easy and very quick. Then we'll talk about planning a book, how you're going to do that for free, producing a book, how you're actually going to create it without spending any money, polishing the book. So, okay, it's done. Now what, right? And that's where we get into self-revisions and editing and so on and so forth. And then publishing the book. Again, how do you do that for absolutely free? And then I'm just going to open the floor for questions. I would not expect that we would be here more than about an hour unless you all have questions, right? So that's pretty much it. Okay. So here's the how, right? The technical stuff. There are many platforms, okay? I just have always used Amazon, and like primarily, right? I've used other platforms, but primarily KDP. And that is because I found that Amazon is much easier for people to grasp. Like I tend to get a lot of older clients, for example, who aren't all that comfortable with technology, and most of them, can grasp and handle managing KDP. So that's great versus something like Ingram that is a little more complex, but only because it's more sophisticated. So I mean, it's fair, it's a balance, right? You're going to get a little more quality, but there is kind of a little bit more of a learning curve, especially, like I said, for those older clients that I work with, or again, just people in general who are not super comfortable with technology. So that's why I shoot to KDP. But these general steps are going to be the same for Draft Digital, Lulu, whoever it is, that you want to publish through. So the first step, of course, is to create an account. So for KDP, you would go to kdp.amazon.com. Very simple. Just like you went to Facebook to create a Facebook account, you went to TikTok to create a TikTok account, you went to bankofamerica.com to create your online banking account, whatever, right? It's just, that's your first step. It's just to create an account. And again, at this point, you have spent $0.00. It does not cost any money to create a KDP account. Oh, let me say this real quick. So another big reason that pushed me to do this type of class is because I have run into a lot of people who have been scammed by vanity and hybrid publishers. So, and the reason they've been scammed is because, again, they don't realize that, about 98% of the stuff that these vanity publishers are saying they will do for them for thousands of dollars, they could do for free. They just don't realize that. And so they're like, oh, of course, I will pay you this money to do this. It's like, no, okay. I mean, you do what you want to do. It's your money, but I'm just saying, I want you to understand that you don't have to do that. That's not your only option. Okay. So again, that's what this whole thing is about. So go to kdp.amazon.com, drafteddigital.com, Ingram, Lulu, like I said, wherever you're going to go, just go to that website and open an account. That's the very first step. All right. Simple, easy. They're going to ask you, to verify your email, blah, 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 that whole thing. So just do all of that, follow the steps, and then, actually create the account. So after you create the account, in Amazon in specific, but again, most of them have some version of this where they're going to say, okay, well, we need to know, number one, that you're a real person. Number two, that like where you're located. And we also need to know where to send your royalties when you make sales. Okay. So all that information needs to be filled out. Like with Amazon in particular, you cannot publish, right? That yellow publish button does not show up unless you have already filled out this information, and they can be guaranteed that they know where to send your money. So in excuse me, in KDP in specific, you're going to just click on this your account when you actually log into your dashboard for the first time, and that's going to take you to where you fill out all that information. So it's just like filling out for a job. You know, your name, your email address, excuse me, your phone number, your social, your routing, and your account number for your bank, all that jazz. So after you've done all that, it's like, okay, that's all clear. Then it's time to get started with actually uploading your files, right? So there are 2 buttons here, and of course there may be more in the future or whatever, right? But basically, you're either going to create a new book volume, right? An ebook or paperback or hardcover, or you're going to create a Kindle Vella story. Now, these are just different forms of publication. Okay, like that's all. It's the same idea, but just depending on what kind of content you have is going to influence, which of these you want to do. And some authors, what they choose to do, which is actually a pretty cool idea, I'm experimenting with it a little bit myself right now, is they will actually serialize their books. So let's say you have a book that's 60,000 words long. Okay, so you upload 5,000 words at a time to Kindle Vella. For people who like to read episodically, they like that kind of Wattpad inkety type of stuff. So people who like to read like that will love that. They're like, oh yes, I love this. Like every week I get to tune in and get this new episode or whatever. Now you make money because they have bought coins, quote unquote, right? And it's like just this currency within Kindle Vella, and that's what you use. It's kind of like Chuck E. Cheese, right? You would buy tokens, and now you got a bunch of tokens you can spend at Chuck E. Cheese. So it's like that. So the first few episodes are free, right? So let's say if you're doing 5,000 at a time, maybe the first 15,000 words, they don't pay anything for. But it may be the first 2 episodes. I can't remember exactly, but the first 2 or 3 episodes are free. And then they have to start paying after that. And so they have to start using their coins. And then Amazon pays you based on how many of your episodes that they read. So if they read the entire 60,000 words and you've broken it up by 5,000 words per episode, I mean, that's, that can be a pretty decent chunk of change, especially if hundreds or thousands of people are doing that on Kindle Vella. So just to give you a heads up, that's how that works. Now, like I said, some authors, what they'll do is they'll serialize the book, and then they will turn around and publish it as a ebook, audiobook, paperback, and hardcover as well. So they're kind of making money on both sides, because some people really enjoy that episodic, tune in again next week, type of thing. But other people are more like, no, I just want to buy the book, sit down and read it, type of situation. So when you publish in both formats, you can actually basically end up catching 2 different audiences, which is, fine. But it's totally up to you. Depends on your content and your preferences, what have you. Okay, that's totally okay. Generally speaking, though, you're going to go for the create button, because again, that's kind of what we're talking about, is publishing books per se. So click the create button. And the first thing you'll see is this paperback details page. And again, it's a longer page. I only showed you about half of it. But basically, it's just the basic information about the book. What language is it in? English. What's the name of the book? Does it have a subtitle? Is it part of a series? I mean, literally just basic stuff. All you have to do is read what's in front of you and follow the instructions. I promise you. I cannot tell you how many clients I've run into who I'm working with, and they'll be like, I can't find this or I can't find that. And I'm like, but it's right. It's literally right there. So it's not necessarily they quote unquote can't find it. It's just because it's not literally on the tip of their nose, they act like they can't see it. Well, I don't say they act like they don't see it. Right. So it's usually just because they're rushing. That's all. And it's like, I know you're excited and everything, and your heart is thumping and you're just ready and eager to get started, but slow down. Okay. You done went all this time without publishing the book. Waiting a few more minutes so that you can go through this process appropriately is not going to hurt you. Okay. So slow down, read each of the prompts and what it's asking you for. That it should be pretty clear. It's pretty straightforward. Like I said, it's all in English. It shouldn't be an issue in general. Now, every now and again, just depending on you, like I said, your comfort level with this type of stuff, you may run into a prompt where it's like, I don't know what this means, right? Again, slow down, because in every platform that I know of, when you hit that point where you're like, well, I see what it says, but I don't know what that means, there's going to be a link that says help or learn more, or what does this mean? Or there'll be a question mark in a circle, something. There'll be something to where you can click on it and get more information about what needs to go in that box. Okay. So that's your second line of defense against getting stuck is, okay, click the help button, click the link that's going to help give you more information. Right now, if for some reason you click that link and you still are like, I don't know, I'm just so confused, Google it. Just Google it. Right. What do I put in the language box on KDP? What do I put in the book title box on KDP? Just Google that, put that in Google, and I promise you'll get a whole lot of answers, right? That should, for 99.9% of people, one of those three things is going to get you through this. Either just reading what's there on the screen, clicking the extra like supplemental information with the help link, or Googling it and to find an answer. If all of that fails, you go through all three of those steps and you're like, Tanisha, I do not know what goes in this box. I just can't. I have no idea. Contact me. Okay. It's okay. Just reach out. I'm on Facebook. I'm on everywhere, honestly. And it's just Tanisha L. Curtis. Yeah, literally everywhere. I think LinkedIn is like just Tanisha Curtis, something like that. But yeah, pretty much everywhere. I'm Tanisha L. Curtis. I have a relatively unique name. So it's going to be hard to get me confused with other folks, right? So yeah, reach out, send me a message and just say, hey, Tanisha, I was trying to do the KDP thing and I got to this point and I got stuck. What does this mean? What should I put here? I got your back. Okay. No big deal. So that's all that is. Just fill that out for the basic information about the paperback or hardcover or ebook or whatever it is that you're going to do. All right. So next, because you get to the bottom of that screen and you'll click next. And now we want to focus on the actual content. Okay. What is the file that people are going to be paying for, essentially? And so at this point is where you're going to upload your cover file. You're going to upload your book content, like the actual document, and which should be either usually like a doc file works. Okay, docx, like a Word document works pretty good. If you have an EPUB file, that can too, if it's been appropriately formatted. So, but those are the kind of things you're going to be looking at. I don't know. I never have, when put like that, uploaded like a rich text file or anything like that. I've always done either PDFs or, Word documents or something like that. So, but you do what you want to, whatever works for you. And you'll see a list on there of the file types that they accept and all of that stuff. So you'll be covered. So the ISBN, I know this is another big hurdle for a lot of people. So the ISBN is simply an identifier for your book. All right. It's literally that basic. Yes, you can go to Bowker.com and spend $125 and up to purchase one or more ISBNs. You can do that. Like, that's totally fine. However, we're talking about how to do this for free, right? So you don't have to do that. And what you can do is exactly what you see. You click that button that says get a free KDP ISBN. And everywhere except, well, I won't say everywhere because there's stuff I don't know about, of course. But like most places, the majority of publishing platforms, you can receive a free ISBN from that company. Ingram does make you pay for your ISBNs from them. But for the most part, you can get a free ISBN. And like I said, guaranteed on Amazon, you can get a free ISBN by just clicking that number and you're done. That's it. That's all you have to do. And again, you don't have to pay a dime. All right. So again, read what's there, go down the page, just one thing at a time, and follow the instructions. That's all you're doing. Don't in your head make it more complicated than it needs to be. I feel like it's what a lot of people do. It's like, nope, you're just answering questions and uploading documents. It's no different from applying for a job or, sending an email with an attachment, stuff like that, right? It's that basic. So then the next tab is about your rights and pricing. Where do you want to distribute the book? How much do you want it to cost? all that jazz. And it'll tell you, okay, well, if you make it $10, you're going to get X amount in royalties, all that stuff will be on this page. And then when you get to the end and you filled everything out, you literally just click the publish button and you wait, right? For ebooks, you're looking at somewhere around 1 to 12 hours. I don't know that I've ever seen it take longer than a day, maybe. For paperbacks and hardcovers, you're looking at more like a couple of days usually. So don't tell people a date that you're going to put the book out and then try to go upload it that very day. That's not smart. That's not gonna serve you. Make sure you can go ahead and upload it and then, tell people or what, you know what I'm saying, if you're doing something that's super rushed. But again, I'm going to talk about kind of a better way to do that, stronger way, more efficient way, there you go, to handle that anyway. And that's it. I mean, they'll send you an email when it's time, when the book actually is live and available for sale, and then you start sharing it with your fan base and start making some sales, start making money. But at no point did you spend any funds to do any of this, and you just put a book on the market. Do you see what I'm saying? So it can be that simple. Now, again, I hope you see already why I don't recommend this method, right? And it's because we didn't do anything to the actual document, right? It hasn't been copy edited, developmentally edited, self-revised, proofread, just nothing. We didn't do anything, right? So as far as like professionally, right? And so I don't know what kind of book, you would end up putting out there. I don't know what the quality would be like. I don't know. There's no such thing as perfect, right? But we can do things to kind of enhance the quality of the book, even for free, right? The utmost, like the best, is usually going to be connecting with a professional. Of course, that makes sense, right? But if you can't, there are still things that you can do under your own power with your own elbow grease to make sure that your book is stronger than just you writing the first draft and slapping it up on Amazon. All right. So that's what we're going to get into now. And you're free to leave comments while I'm speaking. But, again, in case you just came in, there is going to be time at the end for questions. So don't feel like you have to rush or anything like that. It's all good. It's all good. You're going to be covered. All right. So, there's the bottom that I'm just showing you. So like I said, that's what it looks like. And you just publish and go on about your business. Click publish your paperback book or your ebook or whichever version you're putting out. All right. So planning. Planning is exactly what it sounds like, right? It's just like gathering your thoughts, getting an idea of what exactly you're going to be writing about and how you're going to express what it is that you want to say, whether you're doing self-help or a memoir or a fiction novel, whatever the case may be. It's just kind of like going in with an idea of what exactly you're going to be writing. Now, technically, right, this is not necessary, right? It's not mandatory. You don't have to do any of what I'm going to tell you. Of course, you don't have to listen to me, right? However, I found it extremely helpful, especially for new writers, to plan out what they are going to write for a couple of reasons. One, because it takes less time to edit something that's been planned out before it was written, okay? The first draft is just going to be 10 to 100 times messier when you just jump in and start writing. Now, that being said, if you have something going on like ADHD or, something to where that's what you need to do. You just need to jump in and start writing, or you're just not going to start. Please do that. That's fine. Right? Like, you can clean up the mess later. But yes, if that's what it takes to get you to dig in and go ahead and start writing your manuscript, just go for it. It's fine. If you have the mental bandwidth to afford to plan this stuff out before you start writing, it's only going to benefit you, right? It's not going to hurt you. It can be a little messy to not do it, but that's fine. We can clean up messes, right? That's okay. So in the planning stage, and again, I talk about all this on writerworksuniversity.com, so I'm not going to really drill down deep into it, but you can go there and take a look at those lessons. And doing brain boards and premise work and writing a blurb preeminently is really helpful, because again, it's just about organizing your thoughts. There's so many times when I've received manuscripts for developmental editing that very easily, right, I can see all these redundancies, all these scenes out of order. And so it's obvious that this person in no way, shape, or form planned out what they were going to write. It's obvious, right? So they're paying me money to, rearrange and really like dig into the guts of this piece. And so much of it they could have done themselves, you know what I'm saying? But they just didn't take the time. Okay, that's fine. But then that ends up costing you money. So just be mindful, okay? So that's just about kind of getting your words and your concepts down on paper to an extent where you can kind of see where you're going. So I want to write a book about a celebrity housewife who uses bioweapons against her husband's mistresses, right? That, what I'm saying, just kind of being able to just conceptualize it and spit it out that quickly is really helpful, because then as you're writing, it makes it more difficult for you to write yourself into a corner or to feel stuck. I'm not saying it's impossible, mind you, but it just reduces the chances that you're going to run into that, because you kind of already thought that out. You kind of already have a path planned out. Now, you may not stick to it, of course, right? It's flexible, but at least you have some idea where you're headed, so you don't start going in the exact opposite direction and stuff like that and wasting a lot of time. So that's what this section is all about. Now, you see I have this band and it goes all the way around, and this is the book development circle or clock. Well, it is a circle. The book development clock, and it's just a feature that it's something I put together that I share with my clients, and of course, apprentices have access to it. And it's just to help you kind of conceptualize what this process looks like, and you can even use it as like a checklist, right? Now, there's a lot of steps on this thing because there's a lot of steps to publication. But remember, you don't have to do every single step. You can pick out which things you want to go through and which you don't. Now, I kind of lean more on that when I'm talking to people who are going to be paying for services, because again, budget is a consideration. So I was like, okay, well, maybe there are a couple of steps here and there you can skip to just save you a little bit of money, but still get you, a decent book out on the market. But if you're not going to be paying for anything, then, feel free to go through as much of this in kind of a do-it-yourself manner as you can stand to do, right? So getting a template is really helpful. Most of the time that's going to cut your time down by at least half, right? Because you're not reinventing the wheel. You know what goes into an enemies to lovers romance, and you can just put your ideas on top of that template and then start writing, basically, right? Doing an outline and an outline review is really helpful, like having an outline or a beat sheet, whatever you want to call it, but just like a scene list. This is going to happen, and that's going to happen, and that's going to happen. Again, it's just another way to stay organized. Outline reviews are a professional service that I offer, but again, you can have other people look at your outline, because even in the outline stage, they may be able to find major plot holes, lack of a character arc, things like that are kind of obvious, even from a bird's eye view. Not to you, of course, because you wrote it, but to somebody else, if they're looking at the outline, say, well, I don't understand, like, how you say in scene 3 that he was in the jail cell, and then you say in scene 4 that he was in the courtyard fighting. Do you have a way that he's going to get out of the jail cell? Right? You may not have even thought about it because you was just excited and you just writing scene after scene and describing what was going to happen. But somebody from the outside could be like, okay, well, there's a hole there that you might want to fill. And then they can bring your attention to it. And, you can think it through, make that adjustment before you start writing. Then you don't write that plot hole into your first draft in the first place, right? Fair enough. Just saving you a little bit of time. So, oh Lord. Okay. Yeah, I was talking about, okay. So promotion. So even from this point, you can start promoting. Some people think that this is too early. I don't know if there's any such thing as too early to promote something, because promoting something just means telling people about it, making people aware of it. And so generally speaking, the earlier you start, the more likely you are to get more people aware of and interested in what you're doing, which translates into a higher percentage of those people converting to folks that are actually buying your book once it's out on the market. But if you don't start promoting until, the day before it comes out, it's just like, okay, you're just behind the 8 ball at that point. So don't be afraid to start promoting here. And again, it's just about, you don't have to show anybody any content or anything. You can just let them know, hey, just finished my outline. Hey, just got feedback on my outline. Hey, just finished my preliminary verb. I can't wait for y'all to see the final version. Just keep in touch. Just let them know what's going on. Producing. So this is where we're actually creating the draft, right? So with the production of the draft, we're talking about making sure you have a realistic writing schedule. A lot of people, they see other people writing, I don't know, 5,000 words a day or whatever. And I'm like, okay, but can you do that? Right. So like I'll say something like that and somebody, oh well, yeah, I want to, write as much as you write. I'm like, well, pause, right? I do this full time. Like you work a full time job. I don't have any kids. You got two. Like I'm not going to school. You're in an associate's degree class. You just got different stuff going on. We're in different circumstances, and you type, freaking 40 words a minute, and I type 100. So it's just it's just two different, situations. So I don't think it's realistic, as I was saying, to expect you to be as productive as I am. That's just unrealistic, right? So figure out what is realistic for you. It doesn't matter if it's 5 minutes a day. That's something. That's words on the page. And at the end of the day, that's what you need. So if some people are going to be able to write their entire story in a week, some people it's going to take them 8 months. Okay, fine, whatever. Like however long it takes, just keep taking one step at a time and chipping away at it, okay, as best you can. So just getting your first draft done. That's what all production is really all about, mainly. But then you want to do some self revisions, is my recommendation. Since you won't be paying for any professional services, I'm going to recommend that you do at least 3 passes, self revision passes, meaning you read and mark up the entire manuscript, and then you go back and make changes to the entire manuscript. Do those 2 things 3 times. At least. Some people do closer to 10 times, and I love it, right? Because you're not, if you're not going to be connecting with a professional, you just try to do the best you can. Now, again, you can't go overboard because at some point your brain just starts to fill in too many of the blanks, and you can't see the forest for the trees. So you don't want to really go too overboard just because, there's only so much you can do because it came from your brain originally. And it's really helpful to have that outside perspective on what's actually on the page. So 5 times is great. I think that would be good. Like I said, 3, I feel like it's like a bare minimum if you're doing everything for free, right? And then having alpha readers is really helpful. So these are people who are just open to reading your very first or early draft, maybe your 3rd or 4th, right? Draft. They understand that it's not going to be polished, not going to be copy edited. They understand it's going to be messy, and they're okay with that because they just want to read to get a general idea of what your story is about and how you plan on presenting things. And then they're going to give you some big picture feedback about things like world building and character arcs and, plot progress and all that type of stuff. They're not going to get into the weeds about like word choice or punctuation, things like that, because that's stuff that comes later. But big picture stuff, those are your alpha readers. And again, while you're producing, you see that ring about promotion, right? So while you're producing the book, keep people updated. Hey, got another 2,000 words done today. Hey, wrote another 500 words this morning. You know what I mean? Just let them know what's going on. And so, like I said, that way you're kind of taking them along on the ride. And then by the time the book actually comes out, they're like salivating over it, right? They've been hearing about it so much. They're so excited to actually read it. Then they go out and buy it. So that's kind of the setup that you want, or that I recommend. I feel like that. So then polishing. Okay. So polishing is like, whew, okay, I'm done with the first draft or the early draft. Right. It's complete. I've been through self revisions, got my alpha reader feedback. Oh, that's what I forgot. So as far as finding alpha readers, I highly recommend that you join writing groups like as soon as possible. Okay? Because if you plan on doing this for a living at some point, you're going to have to start small, of course, and just start with doing it at all. And then eventually you can build up to the point where you're able to do it for a living. So you're going to go to the groups, and you'll find that you start to connect with people who write similar stuff or read what you like to write. And y'all are going to, have a lot to talk about, when you submit stuff to the group and things like that. And so what's really nice is that as you get to know people, you get an idea of who might make a great alpha reader for your work, right? And so every time you have something to publish, you can reach out and be like, hey, James, I was wondering, I got this dark fantasy I just wrote. Would you be interested in reading the early draft and just giving me some quick feedback? Oh yeah, sure, I'll help, whatever, right? And you can do the same for them. And all of this is synergy, right? It's all, you're helping them, they're helping you, you're both learning, you're both engaged in positive, uplifting, hopefully, right? Supportive literary community. Like, it's all good and it all helps your work and it doesn't cost you any money. So great. I mean, you might want to buy James a cup of coffee or something like that, but pay for his dinner one night at group or something along those lines. But it's not costing you the hundreds to thousands of dollars that it would to actually hire a professional, right? So fair. Okay. So then you have like manuscript evaluation, developmental editing, research, line editing. All this stuff normally is done by professionals. And like I said, costs money. So in order to skip over paying for that, like I said, I would recommend just reaching out to people. And I think each time, try to reach out and try to secure at least 3 people so you can get kind of a varied perspective. So at least 3 alpha readers, at least 3 people to do a pass, just looking for certain things like, okay, how do these characters sound? Do all the characters seem well-rounded, or how was the world building or something like that? So feel free to do that 2 or 3 times. Now, the trade-off is, of course, that it's going to take a lot longer to do these sorts of things with with volunteers. Well, it could be random. That's up to you, wherever you choose to find these people. So be prepared for that, right? Working with a professional is actually going to be relatively quick, right? Because we're just going to get it. You're going to pay your invoice and then we're going to get started and we're just going to go from start to finish. And because that's our job, right? And be done usually, will depend on the service, relatively quickly. So for example, a copy editing job, say copy editing a 40,000 word novel, maybe that only takes about, I don't know, 3 or 4 weeks or something like that for somebody, okay? A professional that does this on a regular basis. So about a month, let's say. But if you have somebody who just really is a grammar Nazi, but they're not, like trained, they don't do this for a living or anything like that, it might take them 2 or 3 months between work and kids and job and, whatever else they got going on in their lives. Then it's going to be a little bit more difficult for them to like stay on it and be on a schedule and get it back to you, in a timely manner. So again, be prepared for that, because again, that's okay, I think, because if your budget is 0, that's fine. Me personally, if my budget is 0, I don't mind waiting. I'll be patient. If you'll get it, done for free, absolutely. Like, that's fine. I will wait. Okay. So consider that. And just like I said, that's one of those things I was talking about earlier. Just be prepared that that's probably going to be the case. It's going to take a while. And it may even take a little bit of managing, right? Because people, it falls off their radar. They forget, they, take 2 weeks off from reading it. All kinds of stuff can happen. And so it's up to you to touch base with them on a regular basis, not like every day or anything, but, maybe a couple times a month, just depending on how long. If it's like 200,000 words, a couple times a month is fine. If it's something shorter, like 40, 50, 60, maybe once a week, check in. Hey, everything going all right? Just wanted to, see where you're at, whatever. That's usually not too bad. But get that feedback, wait for it, okay? And then move on to the next step, right? For, do another pass for whatever else you're kind of working on or you think are vulnerabilities for your piece. So then we get all the way to the point of beta readers. Now, beta readers it's a term that's thrown around relatively loosely. So I'm going to give you my definition of beta readers. If you hear another one, don't automatically think that the person is wrong or that I'm wrong. It's just we have different definitions of the word. That's of the phrase. So when I say beta readers, I'm talking about people who are reading a relatively polished version of your piece. As you can see on the screen, this been evaluated by a professional. You've gotten developmental editing. Again, if you were paying for things, I'm saying. You've gotten line editing. If you needed any research citation stuff, you've gotten help with that. So you've gone through all these passes and all this professional, guidance. And now it's like, okay, this book here, this version of this book is pretty much done. The copy editing's not done. Like there's still punctuation, spelling stuff, missing words, little ticky-tack stuff like that. But it's like the content is what it is. Like this is pretty much it. So what people often do is they send that to beta readers, and that gives them a chance to, what the beta readers normally do is they read the entire book and they basically give you essentially a review, right? They start talking about what they liked and what they didn't like, and all this with their favorite scenes, their favorite characters, blah blah blah. And what you can do with that information, if you did see something that you thought, oh gosh, I really ought to change that, you have time to do that, right? It's relatively early in the process, so that's fine. But otherwise, you take those positive comments and you start sharing them on social media, right? And you start saying, hey, here's what the early readers are saying about this book. And again, that's just another way in which you are promoting along the edge of the ring there, promoting your work while you're polishing it. So then there's copy editing. Now, this is a big one. I got to spend a couple of minutes on this one because it's a lot. So first of all, I want to say copy editing and proofreading are two different things. A lot of people don't understand that. And again, by my definition, they are two different things, right? So copy editing is when a professional copy editor who specializes in your particular style guide, so whatever you're writing, so AP, Chicago Manual of Style, MLA, APA, it just depends on what you're writing, right? So you find somebody who, you normally find a professional who specializes in that particular style guide, and then they go and they copy edit your work based on the guidelines of that style guide, right? So with proofreading, a proofreader, which we will get to later in the next slide, a proofreader is somebody who's looking at your finished product, right? It's like, this is what is about to go on the shelf. And I'm handing you this to just look at everything from the cover to the page numbers to the actual content and tell me if anything major like slipped through the cracks, right? We just need a fresh pair of eyes on this. Okay. So those are my definitions. So I just want to make that clear. So when I'm saying copy editing after you've done the beta reading thing, what I'm saying is it's time to clean up the grammar, right? So again, you're not paying a copy editor, right? Okay, so what are your options? Well, first is to read it out loud. And again, we're trading money for time. So yes, it is going to take a long time to read your entire book out loud to yourself. But let me tell you why this is important. Reading it out loud to yourself forces you to consume the book in a different way. Now you're engaging with the text on more of a verbal level or auditory level, I should say. Well, both, really, I guess. You're reading it to yourself. And what's going to happen is you're going to catch stuff that doesn't sound right? Or it's not what you meant, or, oh, there is a word missing there. You know what I'm saying? You're going to catch stuff like that, and then you can go in and fix it, okay? That's one really easy, like I said, takes a while, but it's very easy to do. You can also, though, have a computer program read it to you. Now, there's specific software for that, but there are also just plugins for Chrome or Firefox or whatever you're using. Your Kindle will read it to you. If you upload the file to your Kindle app in your phone or whatever, it'll read it to you, and that way hearing it, you're going to catch a lot more than just reading it silently, because like I told you, you've been looking at something. First of all, it came out of your head. That's the first mistake, right? And then you've been reading it over and over and over. At this point, you've literally read it dozens of times, you know what I mean? So you've gone kind of blind to a lot of the flaws. So having yourself, or someone else, or, a machine read it to you, like I said, will help you interact with it differently so that you can start to see it more objectively, right? So I think that's really helpful. So those are a couple of things you can do, is just listening to, like, hearing it spoken aloud is really, really helpful. Now you can use algorithms, Grammarly software, I should say, Grammarly, Pro Writing Aid, Hemingway, all these sites, and most of them have a free version. So it's nothing that you have to necessarily pay for. But because you're using the free version, again, I would say use a couple of them, okay? Just to kind of help cover some of the gaps that, one might have versus the other. And here's the key thing. And again, it's going to take time. I understand that it's tedious. I know, but I'm just telling you how to get the most out of these freebies, okay? Do not, whatever, I don't care if you're using Word's grammar checker, do not Accept all suggested changes blindly. Please do not do that to yourself, okay? Let me give you an example. If you say that you want to change all REDs to READ because you saw it was wrong in one sentence, then the computer is super smart and super stupid at the same time. It's literally going to do that wherever it sees that. Okay. It's going to add an A wherever it sees RED. Now, it could see RED at the end of another word like scared, and now you got scared, right? It could see RED with a capital R, and that's supposed to be somebody's nickname. So now instead of their nickname being Red, it's Reed, right? So be very careful and take your time and go through each individual suggestion and make sure that the computer is actually suggesting something that makes sense. I understand you're not a grammar guru, right? I'm not either. Okay. I'm better than some people just because of my line of work, of course, but I hire out for copy editing too. So don't, okay, like I get it. But then knowing that about myself, like I said, that's why I try to hire out. But if I didn't have the funds, if I, can't do that, then please just make sure that you go through one by one, because you will be able to see things that the computer is like, oh, do you want to change this? And you're like, no, it doesn't make any sense, like, because it's just going off an algorithm. So it's applying the same principles to every single section. But sometimes you're writing poetry. Sometimes you're writing lyrics. Sometimes it's dialogue. You know what I'm saying? So it's not really incorrect based on the context, but to the computer, it looks correct. It looks incorrect, and so it's going to flag it and make a recommendation. If you just say, yeah, sure, just change everything, you're going to end up with a really jacked up manuscript. So please don't do that. Look at every single suggestion. And again, there may be hundreds of them. That's why I said, I know it's going to take time. I know it's going to be tedious, but at the end of the day, that is the best way for you to get the highest quality, quote unquote, copy editing job that you can without spending any money. So after all that said and done, if you have access, I would, at that point, yes, I would be thinking about giving it to somebody I know who is really good with the grammar stuff, and who's willing to do it for free, a volunteer, and go give it to them and let them read it and mark it up and tell you where to make changes, or make changes for you if you're comfortable letting them do that. Okay. So then at that point, you're done with the polishing. It's like, whew, okay, we are done. We've got like a finished product to work with here, which is amazing, right? And very, very cool place to be. So then, of course, the last step is publication, right? Okay, we're ready to put this bad boy on the market just about. Now, I want to say this to children's book authors, okay? I cannot tell you how many children's book authors I have come to me with illustrations, and it's just like, oh no, like, unless you've already gone through all the processes we just talked about with the text, it's really not helpful to do that, right? So my recommendation is always to wait until you have your story absolutely done, right? It's just, nothing's going to change. Not the color of somebody's shirt, not a plot point, nothing. Like, you're done. Your story is locked in place. Then go commission illustrations. Again, this is for people who are paying for stuff, okay? Do those in that order, and it's only going to help you. Now, you're not paying for anything, so my assumption is that you're going to be creating your own images if you're, doing a picture book of some kind. And if that's the case, then same thing applies, right? I would just say, go ahead and write out the text, get it all clear and done and set, and then go start drawing the illustrations. That's all. That's my 2 cents on that. So, book design, and that is just the interior formatting, like how everything's laid out, the pagination, what kind of typeface, all of that. Some people skip this completely, and it's totally up to you. It does affect the quality of the read, just visually, right? There are a lot of books out there that are just beautiful to look at, let alone the content actually being good. You know what I mean? But it's like, just looking at the way the words are laid out on the page, it's just, that's an experience in itself, right? It's just a little extra cherry on top of reading this fantastic story. So if you don't have the skills to use InDesign, or you don't have the money for Vellum, or whatever the case may be, to kind of make it look nice, do the best you can and just move forward. It's not the end of the world. Like I said, it really is a cherry on top. It's not the end of the world for most people's purposes, especially if you're, publishing for free. it's okay. Like you can make it skipping that. It's just understand, like I said, that it's that little element of beautification is not going to be there. And some people may be upset about that. So that's fine. And then there's cover design. Again, you would be responsible for making your own cover. Now, don't get me wrong. Shh, be quiet. I don't know what is going on with this show. So with cover design in KDP, there is a cover design engine or whatever. I personally do not appreciate it. Like, it is just all of those covers that come out of that are really just, they look like, you know what I'm saying? They look cheap. So my recommendation, I mean, again, you can use it if you want to. It's fine because it's super easy, of course, right? They got these kind of stock images and then you just kind of slap your title and your name on there and just keep it moving. So if that's where you're at with technology, just don't worry about it. It's fine. But just understand that you would be producing a very obviously, $0 cover. My recommendation would be to use Canva. And Canva is a graphic design program. So think Adobe Illustrator or Adobe Photoshop or something like that, but like the diet version, right? Like it's not quite as sophisticated, but that's, like I said, kind of like what I was saying with KDP, that's kind of a good thing sometimes because that means the learning curve is lower. And with Canva, you really can just drag and drop. And I mean, I can make somebody a decent book cover in all of 5 minutes. You know what I'm saying? Just give me the title, tell me what it's about, give me the, your name is going to go on the front, and like I can put together a decent, you know what I'm saying? It's not going to be the best thing in the whole wide world, but for 5 minutes worth of work, it's going to be, pretty good, right? So you can do the same thing. So go get a Canva account. That's canva.com, like canvas without the S, right? canvas, no, canva. Okay, just cut off the s.com. And you can set up an account. It's free. They have a paid version, mind you, but you can set one up for free because, again, that's what our focus is, $0. And you can create ebook covers, audio book covers, whatever, print book covers, anything you want. And they usually look pretty decent, right, for you to have spent no money on them. So that would be my recommendation. Sales prep, we talked about that a little bit when I was going over the technical steps of publication about how you can get the ISBN for free and everything. Now, copyright is legally yours, technically, from a very technical standpoint, so long as, of course, you wrote it. Like from the moment you put that first word on the page, that document belonged to you, okay? However, the issue that we run into, very rarely actually, it does happen though, is can you prove it, right? If somebody did decide that they were going to steal your work, how would you be able to prove that you are the owner of it? And really that's through a copyright registration with the Copyright Office, copyright.gov, okay? But again, that costs money. So this is what I'm talking about when I say when you choose to spend no money, there are vulnerabilities that come with that. And again, it's extremely unlikely that, number one, anybody will decide to steal your work, right? Or try to. Number two, that you will ever find out that person did that, right? And then even once you find out, what a lot of people fail to realize is that, well, do you know exactly who you are going after? Because a lot of times when this happens, it's like these online bookstore, quote unquote, places, and there's a bunch of LLCs you got to go through and, all these fake names. And I mean, it's, a lot. So do you really have the time and energy and money in some cases to hire a lawyer or investigator or whatever to go through all of that to figure out who you even need to hold accountable for having stolen your work? And at the end of the day, how much did they even make, off of it? Like, what are you even recovering? Will it be as much as what you spent? And so it gets really complicated really fast. But it's something to think about. Like I said, it's a huge vulnerability with not wanting to pay anything at all. So think about that. Keep that in mind. Library of Congress numbers, they're free, stuff like that, but the copyright is going to cost you money. And then the official copyright registration. So then ARC reviewers, so this is where you're sending it out to like editorial reviewers and stuff like that. And again, that helps a lot with promotion. So that's like if I'm writing let's say a romance about an orphan falling in love with I don't know, somebody she met in foster care or something like that, right? I might send one of the books to somebody who owns an orphanage, right? Or I might send it to somebody who works in the Department of Family Services, you know what I'm saying, or something like that, because getting a quote about the book from them would be really cool, right? And influential for a lot of people, or like a marriage and family therapist, because of course they know about love and relationships and things like that, or it's like a sex therapist, you know. So getting quotes from those types of people can be really cool, just to help kick things up a notch as far as like reviews and everything go. And then, like I said, last but not least is proofreading. So that's like, all right, one more time, right? Like, somebody who has never laid eyes on this piece, would you volunteer to read the entire thing and just tell me anything that stands out? And that gives you one last chance to clean things up before you actually put the book out on the market and follow those steps that we talked about at the beginning of the stream, right? And then that's it. Like, at this point, you're a published author. It's done. It's a wrap, right? And you didn't spend any money. So there you go. There you have it. Like, that's the basic idea. So, woo, I'm gonna take a drink and of water. Okay, keep it together. A drink of water. But feel free to go ahead and let the questions come in if you have any. I mean, I hope this was pretty straightforward, but if you have questions, just let me know. Oh man. Whew. Okay. No, I answered that one. Okay, cool. So, okay, so I see, oh, this was from 20 minutes ago. I'm sorry, but I'm seeing it now. What about folks in your writing group who might begin to use your ideas? Where does ethics and trust enter the process? Oh, okay. Well, here's the thing. And again, this is a common misconception, or I don't know, idea. I don't know where this really comes from, but a lot of new authors seem to think that there is a such thing as a way to keep people from stealing your work as a published author. And I'm not sure where they're getting this idea from, but unless I'm missing something huge, okay, which is fair. Like I said, I'm one person, all right? I've never heard of that. If you publicize something, that's literally what it means. You make it public, right? And you're right, that can start even with being in a critique group, right? So once you share your idea with anybody besides your dog, there is the possibility that somebody could take it, right? And run with it. That is super common. I just, you know what I'm saying? Like, that's how such things as genres even come into play, right? At some point, now, I guess millennia ago, mind you, but just think about it. At some point, somebody was like, I really want to write a story about two people falling in love. Okay. And then somebody else made another book about two people falling in love. Maybe a slight variation, but the same idea. They literally took that idea and wrote it again in their own way. And fast forward to today, now we have an entire multi-billion-dollar genre called romance, right? So yes, it's very helpful to get it out of your head that somehow you're going to prevent people from, quote unquote, stealing your work or your ideas. That's just not, again, as far as I know, like I said, if you know somebody who's been able to do this, please correct me. My understanding is, just on a basic logic level, if you publicize something, that means you are giving the public access to it. And if you give anybody access to anything, they can steal it. That's it. Like, that's just, so the only way to keep your idea from being stolen is to not share it, which means you can't publish, right? So just like, that's it. Like, I mean, there's just really no way around it. So, as far as people in your writing group in specific, because that's just my general soapbox about, oh, I'm so scared people are going to steal my work. Well, okay. So, because again, and here's the other aspect before I even get into the critique group, is you got to remember that even if I gave two writers the exact same prompt, the same premise, what I just said, right? a celebrity housewife uses bioweapons against her husband's mistresses. If I give that prompt to two different writers, I'm still going to get two very different books. It's not like they're going to come up with the exact same wording and character. You know what I mean? Like, there's going to be major differences. Why? Because they're two different types of artists, right? They both have their own style and way of doing things. So even if somebody did, quote unquote, steal your premise, right, they're going to write a book that's real different from yours. And your fans like your book, right? And they like your book because they like the way that you write. It's not all about the premise. The premise is key. Don't get me wrong. But if the idea was, I don't want to read anything similar to what I've already read, most of us would only read about a dozen books in our entire lives, because all the ideas that are out there now are pretty much just variations on a theme. They're not, super like, oh man, now maybe you personally have never heard of an idea before, right? And that makes sense, because think about it. There's millions of people being born every day who've never read Little Red Riding Hood, who've never heard of Cinderella, right? So at some point in their lives, that's a new concept for them. That's a new story. And that's why authors who write those like retellings of those fairy tales, or who actually put out, just public domain stuff, right? Books and stories that have already been told and are, like I said, millennia and hundreds of years old, they make decent money, because it's just like there's always people who want those stories because their parents loved it and they want to pass it on, and their children are reading it for the first time and getting excited about it, and so on and so forth. So there's always, every day, there's a batch of brand new readers being born, right? So no matter what it is that you have to write, no matter if it's been written a million times over already, there are people out there who still want that. You may notice that there are people in the world who literally just read one genre. All I want is romance. All I read is political thrillers, whatever, right? And that's it. So if the first person that writes a political thriller is never followed up by anybody else, because everybody else is so concerned about, oh, well, this is too similar to what this person already wrote, then there would be no political thriller genre. You see what I'm saying? And there would be, and then those people who want those types of books would be pretty sad and disappointed, right? But those other authors come in, put their little twist on certain premises, and that is how we build that political thriller community of people who just love, stories like that. So to me, it's just not a major concern, because at the end of the day, you can't write it like I can write it, just period, point blank, because we're just two different people. So have fun. Like I just told you the premise of one of my old books, right? About the bioweapons and the mistresses. Okay, go write that. I'm going to cheer for you. That's great. You know what I'm saying? You can't write it like I write it, but that's just because we're two different people. So I don't feel threatened, or, go for it. Have fun. So, okay, I went all around the mulberry bush. Let me pull back. So here we go. As far as people in your critique group, you're right. Generally you wouldn't want to be in a critique group with people you didn't trust to a certain extent. But this is why I tell people, don't just hop in a critique group, solely for the sake of finding beta readers or something like that. Be part of that community, right? Go regularly. You may not even want to submit until you've been going for 2 or 3 months or something like that. That's totally fine, because you're building those relationships. You're starting to understand who writes what kind of people are in the room. And so if you feel like most of the people in the room after a few months are people you don't trust for whatever reason, then yeah, don't share it with us. I mean, that's fine. I mean, that's uncomfortable anyway, right? If you've got strong enough reason to not trust them, it's kind of weird at a writer's group. But hey, if that's how you feel, act on that. That's fine. So yeah, if you don't feel like you can trust people, don't share it. And that's okay. But at the end of the day, like I said, if you're going to publish it to platforms where literally millions of readers will have access to it, being shy or trying to be protective is probably going to be a pretty huge hindrance. So at some point you do have to just kind of pull the trigger and just be like, you know what, I'm just going to put it out there, and people that like it will like it. People that don't. And like I said, it's very rare that you'll ever even find somebody who does try to do actual copyright infringement. But if you do, like I said, there are legal avenues to fight against that if you have your copyright registration. So that's fair. But that's pretty much, there's nothing you can do to prevent somebody from stealing your work or your idea other than just not sharing it with anyone and just letting it rot, basically, in a drawer somewhere. All right. So what? Okay. I think so. Okay, so I think the question is, right. Okay, so why don't I think I you might have come here. So why don't more people publish for free, basically because this person has seen, lots of people talk about how they can't afford to publish, quote unquote. And if you weren't here before, yes, I've shown how you can rewind the replay if you're watching this. I've shown how it's just a handful of steps to go through to actually put a book on the market. So why don't more people do it? Well, again, that's because usually they're concerned about the quality of the book that they're going to put out. Even if you have the skills, right, and you technically know how to put a book up on Amazon or wherever, that does not necessarily mean that, like I said, it's been through any kind of rigorous. Oh, okay. So Mary is the one who's been sending. Okay. Well, thank you, Mary. Thank you. So, I forgot what I was saying. No. Oh, right. So if you, so people choose not to publish for free because they want to raise the quality of the work that they're going to put out, and especially if they want to do it in, like I said, a timely manner. If you have enough patience and are willing to put in enough elbow grease, like I said, you can put out a decent book and not spend any money, but it does take that extra work and that extra time to try to be comparable, I guess is the word I'm looking for, to people who did hire professionals and things like that. It won't be the same. Like, I don't know that you can do that, but you can do better than not making any effort, right? And so a lot of people just say, you know what, never mind. Like, I'm just I'm gonna get my money together, and then I'm gonna hire somebody to do this for me, which is totally fine. Like I said, if you have the funds. I don't think anybody should go broke publishing a book. It's I see so many people out here, and hear me when I'm saying these people are making six figures, okay? I see so many people out here who are, it looks to me anyway, I guess I can't, I wasn't there, but the finished product looks very much like they just published their first draft. And so it's not impossible to make a really good money publishing your first draft. Again, I don't recommend it simply because, like I said, of the quality issue, because again, your reputation means something. Now, again, there's always going to be somebody that can find something wrong, or they're going to find a plot hole. They're going to find, misspelled word, whatever, right? There are people who just nitpick. And you got to remember, these people are miserable, because how miserable do you have to be, right? to get that upset about something that's voluntary, right? If you're reading my book and you feel like you've hit too many typos, you feel like the story's not engaging, you feel, what I'm saying? You are really just like, ugh, about this book, baby, put it down. Like, it's just, I'm not forcing you to read it, right? I'm not standing there with a gun to your head like, all right, you better finish this last chapter tonight, If you're not feeling the book, just put it down. But I don't think that there's any real reason to like go after an author, right? Because you didn't like their book, because there are other people who will and who do. So it's like, okay, cool. It just wasn't for you. All right, go on about your life. It's totally fine. But some people do. It's a weird thing. They feel like obligated to go tear the author down because they didn't like their book for X, Y, and Z reason. It's interesting nonetheless. But yeah, so anyway, I'm so rambly tonight. So that is the reason, though. A lot of the times it's just they want to, as quickly as possible, put out a reasonable, what they consider a book that's of reasonable quality, right? And they don't think that they can do that on their own without spending any money, so they choose not to. Okay, post your contact information. Well, it's there, right? Like, or you mean like again, I mean, I'm, like I said, on pretty much everything. It's just my name, just Tanisha L. Curtis. That's it. So Twitter or Instagram or wherever you're at, type in Tanisha L. Curtis, 10 like the number, ESHA. and I will pop up. It's the same profile picture. You'll see that I work at Volo Press Books or WriterWorks University, that I'm an author, so on and so forth. You'll know it's me. It'll be pretty obvious. So, so there's nothing really special I need to do there. It's just my name. Like, I try to keep it simple for everybody. Okay, cool. Any other questions? Okay, we're not too bad. About 10 minutes over almost. Checking all the feeds. Okay. No. Nothing here. One more check. Uh-oh. All right. I think that's it. Going once, going twice, I think. Yeah. Okay. Cool. All right. So, thanks for tuning in. I'll be back at it. What is it? September. So I guess in November will probably be the next one. But feel free to rewatch this. Oops, sorry. Feel free to rewatch this and reach out to me, like I said, with questions. But honestly, everything's at writerworksuniversity.com. Like, I promise you, when I say I dump my brain, I dump my brain. It's all there. So if you do have a question, or you look through the site and there is something you think is missing, yes, then just reach out, let me know, and I will try to do a lesson about it or whatever. Feel free, of course, to sign up to be an apprentice if you kind of want to take things to the next level. But chances are, if you're here, just the free stuff that's on writerworksuniversity.com will be plenty for you right now to just kind of get started. And then later on, maybe on your second or third book, we can kind of start working on pushing more of the money making stuff that goes along with authorship. And that can be good. So, yeah. Okay, cool. Well, then I will see you all in a couple of months. Oh, before I go. Okay. Yes. Duh. I should have done this. So I have been appointed the director of the Atlanta Self-Publishing Conference for next year. Yay. So I'm trying everywhere I can to just let people know it will be on April 29th, 2023. That is a Saturday. It is at the Westin Atlanta Airport Hotel on Best Road. And if you go to Facebook, there is a Atlanta Self-Publishing Conference Facebook group. And then I literally just started the Twitter profile a couple of days ago. So that is at ATL Self-Pub-Con is the handle. So you go to Twitter at ATL Self-Pub-Con, and you'll see that I post stuff on there or whatever. So, but it's a self-publishing conference, and they did it. This is basically sponsored, if you will, by the Atlanta Writers Club, and so it's they usually do their conferences twice a year for traditional, people who are trying to get traditional publishing contracts, but this is J.M. Tompkins's baby, right? She just wasn't able to handle it all this year, so she reached out to me to help while she's dealing with some personal stuff, and so I'm just kind of temporarily taking over until she gets ready to kind of jump back in, and it's all about it's the same concept as the regular conference, but it's just about self-publishing, right? It's about helping independent authors understand a little bit of what I just told you, right? Like what's the process of actually developing a manuscript, and then how do I sell it? How do I promote it? So on and so forth. And so we're going to have speakers. We already have some lined up, so that's good, but we haven't announced anybody yet. But we got some speakers who are going to come in and talk about various aspects of not only the publication process, but the writing process. And actually, like I said, putting the book on the market and promoting it. And so that way you can learn directly from people who are kind of in the field, doing it, so that you can strive for the things that they've already accomplished, try to put together a strategy of your own based on the things they have going on. There will be genre tables there. You'll be able to interact with the speakers, get questions answered. It was a lot of fun this year when they did it for the first time in April. And so I'm really excited about that. So that's another thing that I want to let you all know. And, do please connect with the Atlanta Writers Club. They are amazing. You do not have to live in Atlanta to be part of that. And it's $50 a year. I mean, what else in your life is $50 a year, right? So like, please go ahead and sign up. You need to go to atlantawritersclub.org, or you can go to atlantaselfpublishingconference.com. Get on the newsletter. That'll just help keep you informed about all the updates. Like we just updated, updated people about the fact that we now have a venue and a date. So as we get speakers locked in, as we, bring you more goodies and resources and events, we will let you know. So please stay connected and keep an eye and an ear out for all that sorts of information. I think that's pretty much everything I need to say right now about that. But again, in the coming months, as I do more publishing for free sessions, I will update you accordingly. Okay, well, if that's all the questions we have and no other comments, then I'm going to let you folks go. And like I said, I'll see you in a couple of months. Thank you so much. Have a great night.